All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of this Blackfoot Alive podcast. I'm joined again with Blaise and Kolton. How are you guys doing?
Iksukapi.
Iksukapi. Very.
Yeah.
Mm.
Kapi.
So couple things that we were just talking about that I thought I'd share with everyone. So the first one is we are trying to craft a Blackfoot introduction to the podcast. I mean, every time we can start with that introduction. And so we were bouncing a few ideas off. What was the one you said, Kolton?
I said, get makes, which means we welcome all of you listeners, essentially.
Mm.
But
Yeah, maybe we can stick with that, or if there's another idea that comes up, we might take that. We'll see. Blaise, do you have any ideas?
Well, it's like which means hello relatives. It's good to see you.
Can you say it one more time? I think it might have just chopped out on my end. I'm not sure.
Yeah, for sure. Like which means hello relatives. It's good to see you all. Y'all.
That's basically what I said. Just a little bit different. I said, which means it's good to see you all. I welcome you all. And then just means I welcome you guys. So not really much of a difference.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll see what we do for next time. And the other thing we were talking about is it'd be cool in the beginning of each episode for Kolton or Blaise, and maybe even me once if I start to learn some more Blackfoot and I can actually start to do it. Actually, that would be kind of cool if I were to start learning some, and I did this too, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud. Every time one of the three of us shares an interesting story of what happened over the past week, because we record these podcasts weekly. So one person shares an interesting story of something that happened to them, but of course in Blackfoot. And so maybe one week it's Kolton, one week it's Blaise, and then, well, heck, maybe one week it's me. And mine would obviously be much simpler than theirs, but I would, in my case, might be like, well, I learned these 10 words. That's what I learned this week. Whereas Kolton might tell some hilarious story of who knows whatever story he has to tell. Yeah. Do either of you want to tell the story of you guys meeting in person, or do you want to save it for next time?
Nistun. Nidakutaytsinakun. Situtatsimachpa. Mua. Gana. Kwan anistanapi. Sitapes. Aku kaitsinki. Nitsitsapi niks itskanaiks. Itashpiya. Nikaksapi. Kimu gana kwan. Itashtukimaki. Sitannikaukinappi. Ki. Nitsinnoa muhka I no mahkan ki titutatsimotsi pinnan. Titum otatsi titum otatsim motsi pinnan. So I just said I was at the Aquakatsin in me Ghana over in Ghana. I was watching the horns dance. And this Ganak one named Napi come up to me and said, "Oh, okay." And that was the first I saw that it was Blaise, and it was the first time that we had met in person. It's basically this.
Na itakakyo sato na ikskina ikse paskan na da kinime opitoksi na amskapi kanikoan na nesto na itsi for you. Okay. Salita you. Na amskapi kanikoan. Okay, ki tikskamatsu na. And so in translation, I was just watching the Eeks or the horns dance. And here I see on the north side of me, which I forgot to say left. And not horse. Oh, horse. Black word of the day. And as seen him and I started talking to him, it's like, okay.
Titanakaoki na pizzanitapi ki natanista skaisakapi. Gaisika. It's really dirty.
And here I am wearing
No, need to. Man told me, yes, you're right.
and here I am looking like a tourist at Akukaks
Ah,
in my straw hat and my pink Hawaiian shirt.
ah,
Here's it. See this Scott Biganiko on just stoic,
guys, chin in the air, just
chin in the air, eyes looking down that way.
looking down at the people. Ani na kipataki makanita. Muna aksa kipataki. Anista makanita ki. Ito iskuhtik. Ki ituhtsimma ikoksinams. So what I said is one of my great grandmothers, great grandmothers, her name was, she was this really mean old lady named Makanita, and I've just heard that she was really mean. So I said, nitsapi, anni Makanita, just looking around like Makanita, chin in there, it's mean looking. But Makanita is another kind of person that we joke about a lot. It's too bad she's my grandma. She makes the jokes less funny.
Ooh, if
But
Colton's grandma's saying this, get him.
Gantoksistikua takutei poispina nistuki inomahkan ki muatsun. Takutei poispina na akukatsun kiukan ki niksi okakisitsimani. So we're just going to talk about Okan, Akukatsun, and some of the protocols, I guess, and you know what it is. But that's what we were planning to talk about today.
To the audience, each of the Blackfoot tribes, how their Akukaksin, their summer camps. Sundance is kind of like a pan-indigenous umbrella term that kind of like encapsulates all these scenarios without specifying the unique identity. And so, for the sake of this podcast, we're going to be calling Akukaksin as summer camp.
So it could also be translated as big camp, but I'd have to ask more about the etymological breakdown of Akukatsin. And then Akukatsin is basically just the big summer camp where all of the Akkanakatsuks, all of the societies camp together and do their different ceremonies. And Ukan is when we put up the medicine lodge and just other stuff. And so there's a little bit of a difference. Every year there's Akukatsin, but there only has to be Ukan once every 4 years. And so typically, it's cheap. Ukan. Typically in southern Pikani, there's always every year there's Ukan. But it is possible for there to be 2 or 3 people putting on Ukan just because we have so many people. And but again, it doesn't have to be every year. Like boy, the Matitstip. There wasn't Matitstip Okan boy. There wasn't Okan this summer, but Matsipo Siakitstip Okan. Again, next summer there will be Okan again. But yeah, so it differs from tribe to tribe. But yeah, our terms is Akokatsin, which is the big camp, and then Ukan, which is when we put up the medicine lodge. Because none of those words that we have translate to Sundance. Nixinapi understand Chikatumya. That's the way that they called it. The government is, or just outsiders. They just saw that or they just thought we were worshiping the sun and then we were dancing. So, Sundance. Madanistan Katup. That's not the way that we call it.
So, for each of like the Blackfoot nations, each nation has like their Akukaksin differently. But relatively, they kind of fall into similar patterns of like ceremony. So say, for instance, for my nation, Like it's kind of like a it's kind of like the Christmas on July 4th, if you will, if you're Americans were to understand how big this place is. And compared to like other Blackfoot nations such as like Siksika, Spikani, and Amska Pikani, like they're a little more smaller. So, but compared to Ghana, usually have like range from like 100 to 275 teepees, depending on the specific oh my god, English don't fail me now. The specific time when celebration happened. Say like for Ogan, the lodge itself, when it's being erected, that's where a lot of people come together and help with it, and each clan would help hoist or help to build this structure of this ceremonial lodge. But for this year, we did not have an Ogan, but we had like each society's me 8 Baskan, they would dance and for the people, and they would pray, they would give food. Give food.
To give out rations. Istinachkaya. Or istinachka. Istinachka is to give out rations. So if you want to say, the crazy dogs are giving out rations. Or I'll give you something that I actually asked. I said, kada matapest sinachkaya ni si kanat sumite. I asked, did the crazy dog start giving out rations yet? Kada matapest sinachkaya. Did they start giving out rations yet? Sinachkaya, they give out rations. Itaishpi, they dance. Och they sama geeks.
Man. Kolton, if I have a question for you, kind of like, so like from when Ganekoiks, when we celebrate Akukaks, and our location is at Mostoa,
Mukuan.
Mukuan is I think I may have sound that wrong. The Belly Buttes. One of our significant
Mukuan is the east.
And yeah, like that's where we celebrate Akukaksen. For you guys, I've never been down to your guys' Akukaksen. Like, what's your kind of like your cultural landscape like?
Understand the Y. We call it the Y. Because when you're leaving Browning, there's a fork in the road to go like to Great Falls and to Cupping, and we call that the Y. It's like straight off from the Y is a Miyako and it's cheap.
That's something that was really funny when I was there for your graduation, Kolton.
Oh yeah.
And I was talking to your friend, I forget his name, but he was telling us where the sweat was, and he wanted to be so, and he just told me, basically, without kind of saying where he lives, but I guess people watching wouldn't know, but he basically gave me a description of where his house was. So yeah, it's gonna look like this house, and you're gonna see this and this and this. And I felt like it really reminded me that you're in the village, essentially, because you're a small town. Because I was like, oh, what's your address? He's like, I don't know, I don't do those kinds of things. I'm just this color house right around here. You're gonna see this in the area. Drive up like this road and look for this, and then you'll find it. Because you can't miss it. I was like,
yeah, that's how we give directions down here. Just makes more sense than because I don't think really any of us really use like GPS around here. Only like when we're in big cities.
Yeah, we don't need to, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of a finite area. It's not, even if you get lost, all roads lead back to the same place, I suppose. I mean, if you were to wander around Browning for long enough, you would have found his house. I can guarantee. It's not like you're traversing like New York City. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so actually you don't know this. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I always find it funny when Ezrin calls Cupping and Browning a village, because I mean it really is, but like we never think about it like that. And so it like really sounds funny when I hear the village, because when I think of a village, I think of like medieval England, just like thatched roofs and like stuff like that. So it always like weird.
Yeah, town or
Village.
village, or because I lived in a village for I spent in
Yeah.
France, right? And so it's like it's very different landscape wise, for example, and it's the feel is different, but it is quite it's similar in many ways too.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell you the story, Colton, but the next day after your graduation, uh so Janice, who teaches French at Calgary Language Nerds, and then myself, and then Jesse, who you met, we went for breakfast, and we went to is it called Big Sky? Is that what it is, Colton?
Yeah. Sky
Yeah,
Cafe.
yeah, Big Sky Cafe. So we walk in, and it's relatively full. It's not packed, but lots of people, and it's like a scene out of the movies. We walk in, and everyone stops eating to look at us, stare at us for a solid 3-4 seconds, which doesn't sound like a long time, but if a whole room full of people stop what they're doing and look at you for 4 seconds, you notice, and then everyone simultaneously goes back to their food as if they caught themselves staring.
Uh-huh.
And we're like, and all three of us were like, oh, so we're clearly obviously new in town. Everyone knows we are the new.
Yeah. No, there's really no instance that you're gonna like run into somebody that lives there that's new. Like even if you don't know them, like you recognize their face, like just from seeing them around. So they probably just just we're trying to see if they knew you, decided you're a tourist, and went back to eating.
But anyway, I'm off topic of akukatsu, so
Yeah, that's funny. Uh, but anyway, me akukatsu. And then the other aspect of akukatsu is kanakatsiks or kanakatsiks, the societies there. And I believe in Ghana, is there 4? 5? Tanitsoy niksik kanakatsiks.
Tuxcam, Natukam, Yuxcam, and so Nisetum.
Nisitoy kanakatsis. Oh yeah, it's kniks, kanatsumitex, kakoex, motokiks, ki.
Okex,
Puke.
but they usually come when they strike.
Oh yeah, ukeks,
And
ukao for the Sundance sponsors. Oh yeah.
mix too, and
Oh
Namskit.
yeah.
That's when
Like
everyone
different
comes in.
societies.
Mhm.
Because yeah. But the society in Blackfoot culture, most of them are warrior societies. And so they still kind of no no. They still kind of do some of the same stuff, like the dancing out is seishpi is how you say it. Seishpi is to dance out, but it's also a word for to get ready to leave for war. And so these societies, when they dance out, they're essentially kind of keeping on that tradition, because that's how society started, were warrior societies. And so their dances are the same as the dances that they would do when they'd get ready to
Mhm.
Ishawuya, to go to war.
So since I've
Mm.
never been to a Sundance or Akukatsun, if I've never like what's the what happens, or like how long is it? Like what are the basic information? What's the basic information? How long is it? What tends to happen from start to finish? Um Roughly, you already mentioned how many you said 175-ish TPs, I think you said. Is that right?
Around 100 to 275.
Oh, 100 to 275. Okay.
Yeah, so it differs. I guess I would say that Akukatsun, what there's to do is just to watch the societies do their own thing. And it takes place across 2 weeks. And so I guess the busiest day, the day that most people go, is the last day that the horns dance out. And so that's the last day that they dance, they paint faces, and give out rations. And it's kind of like an all-day thing. There's Muna Toiksistiko, the Sunday that I was there, they started painting faces around like 2,
Mhm.
got done about 4:30, and then they started to dance, which went until about 6 or 7. Then they started handing out rations, and then people started doing their naming ceremonies, and then they kind of closed out. So it was their entire last day can last about 5 to 6 hours.
And those,
So yeah.
some of them, they dance with these bundles so they can make a vow for their families, or
Ah,
it
Sorry,
may
they what?
vary.
Sorry, what's that, Blaze? I didn't really. It's is when you sit back. I think it's harder to hear you a
Oh,
little
check,
bit.
check, one, check.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, and like, there are families out there that dance with these bundles.
oh yeah.
And some of them, most of them, make vows for their family members. Either they're sick, or some are serving in war, or just things that help them kind of like pray for healing and safety.
Yeah.
And
So it's mainly
all.
about praying.
It's mainly about praying.
Um,
So for when I was in my field for my cohort, we observed like how, say for instance, from my observation, uh, the first society that would dance out first or start praying first are the Moto geeks, which are Buffalo Women Society. And this society mainly consists of women, and occasionally too you have like two-spirited Aua geeks or Aku geeks that are members of the society, but I can't really speak on much about it because I'm not a member, nor do I have that, say that experience. But from observation, they have like their own different structures of like lodges. So like each society, mainly they have like a teepee, the doyas or ikdoyas, but their lodge is kind of like, it's almost like a hut in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of more like a hut. No,
And
Napius.
Hmm?
Napius.
Doyas.
Hut.
So we were watching, and the more just like trying to understand their culture and how each societies have like their own different face paints, and their ochre sun, they have different colors, different representations, and just different ways of like representing their cultural enclave. So it's a really beautiful place. And during the nighttime, each society would sing and pray throughout the night. And what was really beautiful of like being up there, it's like kind of like a painting where you see all these nitoyas or ikdoyas when they glow like paper lanterns at nighttime. It's pretty beautiful. And you would see shooting stars. And this year, right now, we actually had like what's that? Oh my god, what's that? Is it? I forgot how to say this in English, but um, Northern Lights. Yeah, there's usually occasions of Northern Lights spotted at Akukoks, and it's pretty cool. And but for Colton, how long were you up in Kukoksen?
Niso ist 4 days. First I went up for 2 days just to kind of visit. That's when it SPE Kanatsumi takes Kimoto geeks. The Kanatsumi takes Kimoto geeks were dancing, and then I left. Came back for the last 2 days of the horns. Dance.
So what happens on the other? So you said the horn dance. You called it. Is that right?
Horns Society.
You called it horns, but you called it a horn dance. Is that right?
No, like when the horns dance.
Oh, when the horns dance. Excuse me. Okay, when the horns dance. I got it. Yeah. So that's on the last. So you said this the face painting.
Well, no, actually, they do it. They do the same thing like for 4 days, where they dance, paint faces, and then
I see. Okay.
And then last day, so they do it for 4 days. The last day is the most. That's when most of the people come.
I see. So it's the same. Roughly speaking, the same. The same
Yeah,
activity.
rough.
But
With
then, The last day is the most where most there's the most number of people who go.
Yeah, so there'll be 4 days the it's gonna extends, and then I'm not sure how long the Moto Geeks and Ganatsumite extends. Hold on, I gotta grab my charge.
Sure,
I think
sure.
when I was up there, I think maybe 2 to 3 days, since they're at Akukaksim, they're commonly known as the mothers of the camp, which is pretty cool in a way. But mainly the Ikskinaiks, the horns, that's their camp.
Ah.
That's when they celebrate, and
Yeah,
yeah. So like it usually begins when kind of Indian days ends. So like around maybe like late July.
yeah. And then hierarchies of the societies. And so in Ghana, the first society that you'd start with is Kakoiks, which I believe was just revitalized not too long ago.
Like in 20 in 208.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in 2008, that's when the Kakoiks came back, and that's kind of where younger people join, maybe about teens. That's what they do. And then Ganatsumi takes you join after that. And Ganatsumi takes and Kokoiks, since the younger members, they're Inaki Koiks, the cops essentially of the camp. And so they maintain protocol, make sure everything's going smoothly. They help wherever, and yeah,
Mhm.
basically police kind of. And then Itskinaix is the main society. That's when people get a little bit older, so about in their 30s, they'll join. And then it's a very serious society, more serious than Kanatsumi Takes or Kakoiks. And then Moto Geeks is also for kind of older women, I believe.
Like around maybe like maybe 18 to
Oh, really?
50.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Moto Geeks.
Either.
It's a women's society. And then that's how it is up there. Me, I'm skapibig I'm skapibig kani matitsi pa itskinaix, or iskohtsik matitsi itskinaix matamais tsi itskinaix. In the past, we didn't have horns. It was never an I'm skapibig kani thing, but in the last couple years, some people brought it down to us, but historically we never had it. What we did have was called Sinobachkanagati, or the Sinobakes, the Kit Fox Society. And it died out for quite a while, over 100 years, but Nistoki Shkitsiki Tapi Ninakes, me and 7 other men, we revived it. Anishke ni boy last summer. And so that's the society that I joined. Boy. Last summer, I joined the Kit Fox Society. And so that's kind of like what we have down here. But also another thing that we have down here that's not that's not up north is Nipumakiks. And that's the youngest society. Nipumakiks is mainly kids in like early teens. It's the first society that they join. But also we don't have kakoiks down here. So we have Nipomakiks, but you guys don't, but you have kakoiks and we don't. And so but traditionally between each band, the societies were different. Within the last 150 years, a lot of societies have died out. And so, but a lot of them are in the process of, or not a lot of them, but a couple of them are in the process of being brought back.
And they have like Ikskinaiks, Ganatsumi Dicks. And I think Gito Geeks, which is kind of like another society that
Gito Geeks.
Gito Geeks, Prairie Chicken.
That's where the prairie chicken, the chicken dance came from. The powwow dance is the Gito Geeks Society.
And I'm not too sure about if they're a warrior society or not, but like that's like each tribe has like their own societies that are still up to date. on up to date that are currently still active. And I
Hmm.
think up to Spikani, they have Ganatsumi decks, but no Ikskinaiks.
I don't
But
believe anything else but Kanatsumi Takes.
Mhm.
Kanatsumi Takes is probably the society that stayed the biggest, like never really went away.
yeah, and Amskapikani, they have Ogex, Iokimix.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Ogex,
yeah, we
oh,
have everything down here except for Quakes, essentially.
like the Ogex are the ones that are kind of like, they have like an interesting chronology of like how originally they used to be the original holders of the camp, but here in Ghana, the Ikskinaiks are the holders of the camp from my nation, and Iokimiks are kind of like one of the oldest. Well, Iokimiks means ones that come from the water, or beaver bundle people, and
Oh, that's right. I never thought about that. I never broke it down.
yeah, Iokimiks.
Yeah, Okimik, so the ones that have water.
Mhm.
Huh.
Yeah, so Iokimiks. Here
Yeah.
we see Iokimiks.
Iokimik. That's what we say too.
Oh,
Iokimik.
okay, I must have heard wrong. Um, and so like each of these guys are really cool, and how they have like their own ceremony. The Okeks are the ones that help erect Ogun,
Uh,
and yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
uh,
And
the,
when
oh, sorry.
oh yeah, go on.
I was gonna say often there's different oat cakes every year. Whenever they put on Okan, it's I believe it just means like the sponsor of Okan, so whoever puts it on. And so a popular question Blackfeet people ask is Taka Ukao. Taka Ukao. Who's the Ukawa? Who's the one that's sponsoring the Okan? Taka Ukao.
Hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, that's just my
No,
rant.
that's cool because like there's like a lot of awesome diverse integrations of knowledge from like each tribe
Uh
have their own unique interpretations of like what Okokaksin is, since like for Ganek we kind of like, I don't want to say like we're the standard of like
oh
Blackfoot
yeah.
culture, but like Akukaksin, in my honest opinion, should not be the standardization of Akukaksin itself. Like each region has their own beautiful integrations of what their belief systems
Mm.
operate in their nation. So just like how language and culture, Ganekoics should not standardize it. I believe that we should like embrace all unique interpretations of Blackfoot culture as a whole, rather than monolithicize like kind of as like the epitome of like the standard.
They need to accept they need to accept Batakis instead of Mata.
Well, on behalf of the Ganekoics, I'll say Badaki.
Yeah. But anyway, and then what else about the Akokatsun is important to know is protocols and Okakisman is some kind of I guess rules. One of the main ones that's also kind of controversy right now is taking pictures at the
So I'm
Akokats.
just gonna interrupt you really quickly, Colton. I have to step away for a sec. You guys keep talking. Just I'm in Taiwan, and I'm taking the family that I'm living with out for dinner, or for lunch,
Uh,
sorry, for lunch. And I have to just get us a few things ready. So I have to step away, but you guys can keep talking. I'll just turn my camera off and everything. So sorry, go ahead. Taking pictures. Controversial.
Oh, but anyway, Miyako got and it's kind of really controversial to take pictures. That's the biggest argument now, and the main consensus, I guess, is just that you shouldn't take pictures of ceremonies. Some people believe that you can take pictures of the camp, some people don't, but I guess the main thing that people have agreed on is not to take pictures of the ceremonies or of the dance, not to do. anything like that. Otherwise, the Kanatsumi takes, if they catch you, they will take your phone and make you delete it.
Or break
Like,
it.
or like, yeah, like remember that drama that happened, was it Saturday?
Mhm.
Ako Godson. And Chitsinekuk mo kipetaki. Chitsinekuk. Mo napi ko ni tutuki tomatapsin na kinik si Kanatsumi takes. They saw him ki hitaps ko so they kind of chased him away because they saw that this white guy had come and started recording the it's Skanaik's
Mhm.
dance. But ika. So yeah, pinatsinakit is what they'll say. Don't take any pictures. Otherwise you'll hear somebody yell, Kanatsumite Ksasinaki, which means crazy dogs, they're taking pictures. And then they'll just all chase after you. But yeah.
Like another protocol that do's is don't walk in front of eeks and ikes when they're making their way to their central camp.
Ah,
Big no.
ah.
Or even step over them. Kind of like, you know how like commonly here, like in North American culture, European,
yeah.
Eurocentric culture, if you will, like people step over someone. But in Blackfoot culture, that's a big no-no. That
Oh yeah.
kind of,
Well, that's a general rule, is not to let anybody step over your legs or not step over anybody's legs. I won't go to why, but that's just kind of a rule. That everybody kind of, I don't know, rule for everybody. Some societies, they have to follow certain rules, but I'd say the stepping over legs thing is something that applies to, I guess, everybody in our belief. And so if you were to, be stepping over legs at Akukats, and you'd probably get into a lot of trouble. Or but yeah.
mm-hmm.
And
Or even pointing, like kind of like as an example.
That's another general rule. Don't point with your finger, point with your thumb.
Hand or thumb.
Your lips.
Or your lips.
Point with your lips. With your chin.
The duck face was the original Blackfoot pointer, now has been appropriated in social media.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else there is. It's kind of hard to think of them.
Well, like refusing food is kind of like
is a no-no. Yeah, you get fed a lot at Akokats, and then you just kind of have to eat whatever they put on your plate, because that's also just another general Blackfoot cultural rule, is to accept food. And then I was always taught to cover my food before I left with it. I don't know if you guys were taught a similar thing, but that's what I.
Sure, but like when I used to be like a member for the Guck Weeks, smoked because I was just a kid. But like I remember one guy who lit a cigarette, and he was about to walk outside, and our elder at the time said, "Sa, Mako beat." He said, "Go sit down," because like you can't leave the lodge.
Oh yeah, you're also not supposed to walk in front of certain people when they're smoking, and so what they'll do is they'll take a piece of stick or like a piece of wood and put it in front of them. So yeah, but so you kind of have to learn some of the protocol before you go to Akukats, or you'll get in trouble. Or like they'll line the rocks of, I believe, the old Motoki Uyists, the old like Motoki lodges with rocks, and you can't cross into that. So you got to keep yourself and your kids from walking on the rocks or walking inside. And then what other kind of protocols are there? But yeah, there's a lot of protocols.
Stand in front of the
Don't stand in front of doors. Yeah. And a lot of them aren't really specific to Akokats, and they're kind of general rules that people are supposed to follow every day, but specifically when you're in Akukatsun, you shouldn't break these rules.
Like depending on like different societies, say for instance, like Ninamskiks, like there's some things that Ninamskiks can't say. Say for instance, like Gayo, right?
Ah,
Like they have to say Baksikwe
oh
because
yeah,
like
Bakchakwe. I don't know. There's a lot of different rules. Couldn't possibly go over all of the possible rules that you could follow because the rules depend on the society and depend on the person, and there's a lot of them that you have to remember, like you can't ask somebody that's beaver bundle for a cigarette or anything to smoke. And so it's good just to be cautious and
and you
open-minded.
don't
Don't
like
get
so
correct.
like society members.
uh
Um, there's one too, like it's kind of like a children's kind of protocol, if you will, like don't whistle at night or
oh
don't.
yeah, yeah, you're supposed to whistle at night.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to look outside at night. Generally you're not supposed to really be outside at night. But not see besit is what they'll say. Don't be outside at night.
Or cry at night.
Oh yeah. Never heard of that one. That would make sense.
Mhm.
So yeah. Some other, I can't really think of any other rules that are specific to Akukatsun.
Well, like don't knock too, like
Oh yeah, you can't knock at.
because like with it's
Have you ever? Oh yeah, Istukiman.
Mhm.
But oh yeah, if you want to like enter teepee, you should kind of just some teepee etiquette is to clear your throat outside. Don't knock on the teepee. So just go in and then the owner might ask you who you are. They might just say beat, and then you go in and then you wait for them to tell you where to sit. But you shouldn't really ask to go inside of society lodges unless they specifically, invite you to. But yeah, and most of the society lodges are in the center, so they're not too hard to identify. And then don't walk between the
like don't park inside the circle camp.
oh yeah, don't park inside the actual circle camp. If you're in a teepee, more on that teepee etiquette, don't come between the altar, so the smudge box and the person that owns the lodge.
Mhm.
And then men sit on the right side of the lodge, women typically sit on the left, but like I said, you just have to wait for the whoever owns the lodge, they'll typically tell you where to sit.
Mhm. Also, do you guys like you can't leave the TPU with your food, right?
I've never heard of anything like that, but I wouldn't, because yeah, I typically don't leave food unattended, just as a general rule, and you're not really supposed to leave teepees unattended for too long, or you just have to sleep in them. You're not really supposed to let them like go unslept in.
There were some people that lost their TP because they didn't take care of it and
Yeah, you're supposed to
took the
yeah,
holes.
you're supposed to take care of your especially painted, well, mostly your painted lodges, you're supposed to take care of them in a certain way. But I mean, if you're at that point, that you'd probably understand a lot of these. But yeah, just a lot of different protocol and rules.
It's another one.
Anya na ginawa ni Napi.
Anyone feels happy at to Scapi Kani.
Ah, Napi sinakwan.
Happy Sinek one.
Ah,
Up.
ah,
Nice spec one.
na sinakwan. Saksikwan, that's what it is. Napi saksikwan.
Let's see.
Anya.
The what else here? Man, there's so many protocols that we have to cover on, but generally, like most of the protocols are pretty much like housekeeping or
Yeah,
house.
it's just kind of basic. Most of them are just basic courtesy in our culture. They just seem kind of different because it's not really the same in Western culture.
Mhm.
But most of the akugats and rules aren't really that different from, your typical everyday Blackfoot courtesy rules. Like if you live back in the day, then knocking on teepees, like the teepee etiquette would carry through like all the time, not just the smoking thing would carry through all the time. And you're not supposed to walk in front of like certain society members like at all, even if there's not akukats, and you're never supposed to ask a beaver bundle for cigarettes. So most of these rules are they're not really specific to akukats, and it's just that you'd probably get in a lot more trouble at akukats and if you're to break these. But yeah. I guess the main rule that I could think of that is specific to akukatsu is the pictures, but that also just holds through to kind of any ceremony.
Mhm.
It's not to get not take pictures of the ceremony, and you shouldn't take pictures of your face when it's painted.
Mhm. Even though like most of our generation as contemporary Blackfoot, you see
Most
people
does that, yeah.
taking pictures and posting on Instagram.
Macho golpe.
Here you're gonna delete yours. It's
Ah,
like yeah.
I was just sick of the time. Is there anything else that we've
Well, like even like when the Eekskinites would dance out, like outside the perimeter of the camp, like don't park too close
oh yeah.
towards the camp because like they're these guys are conducting ceremony and they're praying
Oh yeah, and
and,
you're not really supposed to cross the road when they're doing that.
definitely and they have to start squeezing together and like,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
just
because none of them are supposed to fall at all. It'd be very bad if they like fell on their trip, so they make sure the road's like completely clean. Like I remember seeing them like sweeping the road to make sure that it's like completely clear.
even or filling like with gopher dirt and go with go
Uh,
and gopher holes. Oh my god, I can't speak today.
some other words that I could think of is SB is the word that you use when you're talking about society dances. The difference between Apaska and SB, they both mean dance, but there's slight nuance to it. Apaska comes from the word ipaskatapi, which anistapan in flirtatious or romantic. And so apaska is kind of like a flirtatious dance. So that's what you'd refer to as like powwow dances. You also see it in like paskatstuki, flirtatious ears. It's when your ears are like when your hair's tucked behind your ears, when
And
your braids are.
put your hair down.
Paskatstuki,
Hmm.
when you braid your hair behind your ears. Paskatstuki. And then SP means up and down. And so that's what the word that you use for
SB.
ceremonial dances, SB. And then apaska is kind of more like a flirty dance. So that's typically what we'll refer to powwow dances.
Mhm.
Just kind of as flirtatious dances.
SB.
Some ceremonial dances will be referred to as like apaska, but most of them are referred to as SB. SB.
Is it Esh?
Um,
Esh.
well, it comes from that SSP root. You could write it as HB with an H, but it comes from that SSP root, which is where we get words like sportse, which is like the sky. Because SSP, that ISP, literally means like up. And so ISP means like dancing going up. And like sportse is the sp direction.
Hmm.
So SP kind of means like up. Or like we also hear spumitapi, sky beings.
Hmm.
So that's what we refer to the society dances as SB sin.
Like,
And then I'll just keep talking. And then like I said, when you're talking about them giving out food or giving out rations, you say istinachka means to give out rations. So you could say istinachka, yeah, they're giving out rations. And then what other what other terms are there? Achkanagati is a society. And then when you talk about joining societies, the word that we use is itsintsi. So you could say nitsitsins, and then whatever society it is. So you could say nitsitsins Kanatsumi takes. I joined the Kanatsumi takes. And then that reminds me of a short conversation that I had. And Elda asked me, kito mate since Kanatsumi takes. Have you ever joined or kitsit since Kanatsumi takes? Did you join Kanatsumi takes? Ki netanista, I told them. Sa matonate since Kanatsumi takes. I've never joined the Kanatsumi takes. So itsitsi is another word that you could use. I was just talking about different words. So far I put in SB, Istsinachka, Titsins, Itsintsia, which means to join. Oh, Ochbwiskin means to paint face. So you could say Nitchbwiskinoku, I got my face painted, or you could say Eitochbwiskinakia, they're painting faces. So those are some common vocabulary that you could use with akugatsin.
And does I think it probably does, but do you distinguish vowel length?
Like how?
Like if you have if you hold a vowel for a longer amount of time, that can change the meaning.
Yeah, I
We
was
do-
just doing a paper on that. For instance, if you said ochki, like with the longer e sound at the end, that means water. But if you say ochki, it means he's barking. There's actually a paper about that, kind of different vowel changes in the Blackfoot dictionary.
from
And is that word stress or is that vowel length or is it both?
Let me look at the paper. They would kind of describe it more than me because they actually
Right.
I believe like their thesis on it. Keep talking while I.
Yeah.
even for instance, like my mom from Naha, that's
No,
like dirty or yeah.
yo, no.
Naha.
Resources.
Like even like with Hanya, for instance, like, oh, is that so? Versus Hanya, which is like, oh really? So it's kind of, but Hanya is kind of like men would kind of say like Hanya compared to black women. Hanya, it's kind of much more lengthened and kind of.
Mm-hmm. Well, even just things like the reason I asked is because even when you say like oki, there's like a nice long it's not oki. Is it? Or you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it's like okay.
Yeah. So it's like a long O, not short.
Yeah. Let's see. I wonder if I'd be able to share my screen
Yeah.
or
And then can you send me the link for it so that I can put it in the description?
share. Oh,
Sorry?
right here.
Oh.
I got it. Can you guys see?
Yeah.
Okay. So this this paper that I just read a while ago is just talking about morphophonology in Blackfoot. And this is the abstract. It's just talking about different pitches and accents and how it changes the different words or the meanings. For instance, the morpheme of water is ochki. But if you say ochki, that's kind of more saying like it is water. And then the morphemes of ochki, which is right here, is which is the durative tense, which means like it's happening like currently. And then ochki, which means bark. So when you say ochki, means he's barking versus ochki, which is water. And so yeah, it does change it a little bit different. Changes the meaning. Sometimes it's not really that common. But most of what this paper is talking about is how the word changes based on what you add to it, like where you put the pitch or like where you put the accent. For instance,
Is that a stress or is that like in Spanish, like a Spanish, even English, like content and content?
Yeah, it's the stress like in Spanish. So
Okay.
think of it exactly like Spanish. Like so, imita is a dog, but Omita or kakomita is just a dog. Pokomita, small dog. Omkomita, big dog. So look at how all of these prefixes have changed. Dog, and you could see where all of the accents go based on what you add.
Okay.
And so I think this is kind of what makes Blackfeet so hard to pronounce is people don't really realize that the people that speak, they just like know it because I mean it makes sense, but a lot of people, like even myself included, like I have a big I guess I prioritize like grammar. Even this is kind of like news to me because I just know how to like where to put the accent. I never like really learned rules. And so this is kind of like new to me, but it makes sense. But I just like never thought of it.
So then you've
And
got
so whenever
stress. So you have a stress and you have a vowel length. You have
Yeah.
both, essentially.
Yeah. Well, it's I guess I'd say it's mainly just stress. It's kind of the big kicker. But yeah, so the stress just changes based on whatever prefix you add or
What's the word for Sundance Festival again? Or Sundance? What is it again?
akokatsin.
Yeah, so it's interesting because there's more than stress happening in that word, for example.
Yeah.
Like akokats, and you have it's more than just stress because you have and it's one word, right? Or is it
Yeah.
multiple? Well, I guess yeah, it's and you get that. I guess yeah, you have long words in Blackfoot, so yeah, because you actually have a long it's more than just stress. There's something else happening.
Yeah.
I don't know the words to describe it. There's something more than just stress though, because you actually have multiple stress. Maybe Blaise, maybe you can use some of your linguistics background to.
Well, like when say for instance, with that Natalie Weber's um article, like when you have accented vowels, most Blackfoot accented vowels are kind of much more higher pitch. So like, or even higher in stress. So that's where most vowels with accented vowels, say like for instance, like hold on, I'm trying to think. Crap, there's so many of them. I have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, that's fine. That's all right. Well, shall we wrap this one up? I know it's getting kind of late in Calgary and in Montana as well, in Browning.
Yeah.
Are you in Browning? You know, you're in no, you're in Cutbank. Sorry, you're in
Same
Cutbank.
time zone.
Yeah, same time. Cutbank and Browning. Yeah, definitely same time zone.
Up in Browning, same time zone.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for watching / listening. Thanks, Blaise and Kolton, for your time as always.
Kita matsitsip sa tohpo.
Kita matsinok.